begin by breaking down the title of this chapter. What are moderate enhancements? Well, to put it simply, they're enhancements to humans that could believably be achieved within the next 1 or 2 generations, if technology continues to develop steadily in that direction. To quote some examples from the book, this could mean physical and mental rejuvenation or new ways to interact with machines. With technology like this, there are a lot of ethical questions brought to light that are important to consider before we bring bioenhancements into our lives. But before we begin, here's a quick explanation of how this lesson will work. At the end of each subsection of the chapter, I will ask you to pause the video and have a brief class discussion about what you've just learned. I'll even provide you with some questions that you might use to lead your discussion. When you hear this noise, please pause the video, and be sure to take notes on the sheet I provided because there will be a quiz. Okay, let's get started. The first section of this chapter brings an important question to the table. How would bioenhancements affect inequality? These enhancements would likely be expensive, meaning that only the wealthiest people could benefit from them. This would create a new kind of inequality, as well as deepen the pre-existing rift between the rich and the poor. The solution the book provides? Make bioenhancements free to the public through government spending. This solution would cause its own problems, of course. One being the government could easily promote certain enhancements and discourage others, bringing about a form of eugenics. Next up, the global consequences for introducing this technology. We've just discussed the problems associated with bringing bioenhancements into a wealthy country like the United States. But what about third world countries? Due to the wide gap in available wealth and how expensive these enhancements will probably be, very few people in third world countries will be able to have these enhancements. This could either result in a future where enhanced humans easily topple nations, or a situation similar to World War II, where wealthy countries provide financial aid to disadvantaged nations to get them caught up in terms of technological advancements. Let's return to the issue of inequality. How would the government assist in stopping a new brand of racism from cropping up as a result of bioenhancements? Even in the situation of financial aid from the government, wealthier citizens would be able to purchase additional, more lucrative enhancements that would create gaps in our society. Please discuss your ideas for how this inequality could be combated with the class. We spent a while discussing the bioenhancements of humans. What about animals? If it's possible to one day give animals human-like levels of self-awareness, is that ethical? Would it cause them suffering? Pause the video here and discuss these questions with the class and how we could render these issues obsolete. Let's discuss mental privacy. If bioenhancements could eventually result in mind reading, how would the government implement control measures to prevent this? Do you think mind reading in this situation is even plausible? Pause the video here and discuss. This book goes on to make claims about how these enhancements would lead to one's sense of self diminishing. That is, enhancements would gradually make people more a product with certain features rather than human beings. Bess gives a few ways as to how this could be curbed, mostly related to restoring your sense of self through positive affirmations. As Bess continues, he gives some tips as to avoid turning oneself into more machine than man. This essentially comes down to not using medication to improve your mental and emotional state, which is, okay. His language in this passage in particular is very condescending and just completely ignores the seriousness of mental illness, and I could talk about this for hours, but I won't. Let's just move on. We're almost done. We've already talked about how Bess believes that bioenhancements diminish the sense of self, but what about our sense of reality? Things like VR already exist and are being developed further. What would happen in a future where people can completely tune out the world around them and live in a fantasy scenario at all times? Bess's response in terms of how to fix this is to take in your surroundings in nature. But to close this out, I'm going to ask the class to brainstorm different solutions. After this, take your quiz. Good day.